I used to care about everything. What people thought of me, what they whispered when I left the room, how many likes I got, how fast someone replied, how perfectly I fit into the world's invisible standards. My mind was a crowded room full of judges, and I was always on trial. No matter what I said or did, the verdict was always the same: not enough. Every morning I woke up already tired, already performing. My smile wasn't for me. It was a mask to make sure no one saw the cracks. I'd laugh when I was supposed to, agree when I didn't want to, and hide the parts of myself that didn't fit the version of me I thought people would like. It was like living in a costume I could never take off. Then one night, something small happened, but it changed everything. I was scrolling through social media, comparing my life to hundreds of strangers. Everyone looked so alive, so sure of themselves. I felt smaller with every swipe. I closed my phone and just stared at the ceiling, and it hit me how much of my life was built around trying to be seen, when all I really wanted was just to be. That night, I asked myself a question that felt dangerous. What if I stopped caring? Not stopped feeling, not stopped loving, just stopped handing out pieces of myself to everyone's opinion. What if I lived like my worth wasn't up for a public vote? The next morning the world looked the same, but I didn't. I felt lighter. I didn't rush to check notifications. I didn't adjust my face in the mirror. I just breathed. And that simple act felt revolutionary. The first test came quickly. At work, a colleague made a passive-aggressive comment about one of my ideas. Normally, I'd replay it all day in my head, twisting every word. But that day, I just smiled and let it pass through me. No explanation, no defense, just silence. The moment ended, and for the first time, it didn't own me. That's the thing about caring too much. It gives everyone else a remote control for your emotions. One word, one look, one comment can turn your peace into panic. When you take that control back, people don't change, but your reaction to them does. You stop being dragged along by their storms. Days turned into weeks, and my life began to shift quietly. I stopped forcing conversations that went nowhere. I stopped saying yes out of guilt. I stopped apologizing for things that didn't need apologies. And as I did, my circle got smaller, but my peace grew wider. There's this fear we all have that if we stop caring, we'll lose connection, but it's the opposite. You start forming connections that are real, not based on performance. People begin to see the unpolished, unfiltered you, and that's where truth lives. I remember walking through the city one evening after work. The streets were noisy, but inside I felt still. A group of people laughed nearby, and for once, I didn't feel the urge to compare my happiness to theirs. I realized I had spent so many years measuring my life by someone else's ruler. Now, I was building my own. The day I stopped caring was the day I started listening, really listening, to myself. I began noticing how often I said, "I should," instead of "I want." How often I lived by invisible rules I never agreed to. Every time I caught myself doing it, I'd take a breath and choose differently. Slowly, I started living on my own terms. I learned that not caring doesn't mean being cold or detached. It means caring selectively. It means protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You realize peace isn't found by pleasing others. It's preserved by pleasing your soul. I stopped caring about looking busy, about being liked by everyone, about chasing approval disguised as ambition. Instead, I started caring about mornings that felt slow and honest, about doing one thing deeply instead of 10 things for show, about people who listened without waiting to talk. And somewhere in that quiet, I found myself again, the version of me that didn't need validation to exist, the one who could sit alone in a room and not feel lonely. When I stopped caring, my world didn't shrink. It expanded. I started noticing things I had ignored. The sound of the rain, the way sunlight hits the wall at 7 a.m., the freedom of saying no without guilt. The weight I'd been carrying wasn't life as pressure. It was everyone else's expectations. Once I set them down, life didn't get easier, but it finally felt mine. Here is what I discovered. The people who truly love you won't vanish when you stop performing. They'll stay. The rest were only there for the show. Let them go. You'll never miss who was never real. The truth is, we care so much because we're afraid. Afraid to be misunderstood, disliked, or different. But the price of being liked by everyone is losing yourself, and that's far too high. When you stop caring, you stop begging for peace. You start creating it. You stop chasing meaning. You start living it. You stop running from silence. You begin to hear your own voice again. So if you're tired, if you feel like you're always wearing armor, try this. For one day, just stop caring. Let the noise fade. Don't explain. Don't defend. Don't seek. Just be. Watch how the world doesn't fall apart. It realigns itself around the real you. The day I stopped caring was the day I started living. My life didn't become perfect. It became honest. And honest feels better than perfect ever did. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing to join our community. See you in the next video.